The stars stretched across the dark canvas of space, cold and silent. Aaron sat in the cockpit of his small fighter, watching his sensors flicker with hostile signals. The frontier had always been dangerous, but tonight it was worse. The feral ships had hunted him for hours, their sleek black cruisers cutting through the void with deadly precision. His own ship, though fast and sturdy, was not made for long pursuits. Alarms screamed in the cockpit as enemy fire tore across his shields. Aaron gritted his teeth and pulled the controls hard, spinning his craft through a narrow asteroid field. Shards of rock tumbled all around him, slamming against his hull, but still he pushed forward. He knew the odds. Alone, far from his squad, his chance of escape was slipping away. The feral commander gave no mercy. Another blast struck the rear thrusters, and the ship shuddered violently. Warning lights painted the cabin red. Aaron struggled to stabilize, but the systems were failing faster than he could respond. Smoke rose from the panels, and sparks snapped. In the air, one last strike from behind broke the fighter's wings, sending it spiraling down toward the planet below. Through the haze of smoke, Aaron saw the surface rushing up to meet him. A world of jagged mountains, black forests, and glowing rivers spread wide under the storm-filled sky. He pulled every emergency lever he could reach, trying to slow the descent. The impact came like a hammer, tearing through metal, shattering glass, and throwing him hard against the seat. The world went dark. When he woke, it was to the cold bite of alien air on his face. The wreckage of his ship smoldered around him. Broken steel lay half buried in the dirt, and strange plants bent under the weight of smoke and ash. Aaron forced himself to move, every muscle aching, every breath sharp with pain. His uniform was torn, and blood ran down his arm. Yet he was alive. He staggered from the wreckage and looked at the sky. Shapes were descending. Feral ships hovered above, their shadows falling like blades across the ground. He knew they had followed him. He had no chance to run. His legs were weak, and his weapons were lost in the crash. All he had left was his pride. The ground trembled as the ships landed. Figures stepped out, tall and armored, their faces hidden behind masks of dark metal. The feral soldiers carried long spears of energy that hummed with power. Their movements were precise, disciplined, like predators who had done this 1,000 times before. One soldier raised a weapon and barked an order in their harsh language. Aaron did not understand the words, but he knew the meaning. He raised his hand slowly, refusing to kneel though his body screamed for rest. They moved in around him, binding his arms with glowing restraints. The heat of the cuffs seared against his skin, but he did not cry out. Aaron lifted his chin, meeting their gaze without fear. If this was the end, then he would not give them the satisfaction of seeing him broken. Among them stood one figure who did not move like the others. She was shorter, lighter in build, though the same black armor wrapped her form. Her mask caught the firelight from the wreckage, hiding her expression. Unlike the others, she did not shove him or strike him. She only watched. The commander stepped forward, his armor marked with bright symbols of rank. He looked Aaron over with cold indifference, then spoke to his soldiers. They shoved Aaron toward a waiting transport, forcing him inside. The air within was heavy, filled with the scent of metal and fuel. He was thrown against a wall, and the restraints locked him in place. As the ship lifted off, Aaron stared out through the small slit of a window. He saw his broken fighter burning below. The last piece of Earth's presence on this world, a part of him ached with loss. But another part whispered that the fight was not over. The transport rumbled through the sky, carrying him toward an uncertain fate. The feral soldiers spoke in their guttural tongue, ignoring him as if he were already defeated. Yet that one soldier, the smaller one, sat across from him in silence. Her eyes, visible now through the faint glow of her visor, rested on him longer than the others. Aaron met her gaze without flinching. He wondered what she saw. A prisoner, a weakness, or something she could not yet name. The journey ended at a fortress carved into the side of a mountain. Dark towers rose above jagged cliffs, their surfaces etched with glowing patterns of alien design. Lightning flashed in the storm above, casting the walls in shifting light. The transport landed within the fortress gates, and Aaron was dragged Out by his captors, inside, the halls were wide and cold, filled with the echo of boots striking stone. Alien banners hung from the walls, each marked with symbols of conquest. Aaron was pushed through quarter after quarter until they reached a chamber of steel. There, his restraints were fastened to a pillar, leaving him standing in the center like a display. The commander gave more orders and left. The soldiers followed, all but one. The smaller figure remained. She stepped forward, her helmet sliding back to reveal a face framed by sharp features and eyes of pale silver. She studied him in silence, her expression unreadable. Aaron straightened. As much as his bonds allowed, he would not bow, not here, not now. She tilted her head slightly, as if curious. Then, without a word, she turned and left the chamber, leaving him alone with the sound of his own breath and the distant rumble of thunder outside. Aaron closed his eyes for a moment. His body was broken, his freedom gone, but his spirit remained. Untouched, they thought they had captured him. Perhaps in time they would learn the truth. Humanity could not be chained so easily. The fortress stood like a shadow against the storm. Its towers reached into the clouds, and lightning rolled across the sky as if the heavens themselves feared the feral. Inside, Aaron remained chained in the chamber, the iron cold against his wrists. His body was tired, but his eyes still burned with quiet fire. Hours passed. Soldiers came and went. Some questioned him, their voices sharp, their eyes filled with contempt. They demanded information about human fleets, human colonies, and human weapons. Aaron answered with silence. His silence angered them more than insults ever could. They threatened him, but he would not give them what they wanted. The feral could not understand it. To them, survival was everything. They could not imagine risking life for loyalty. Yet here was a human who would rather suffer than betray his people. When the soldiers left, the chamber was filled with silence once more. Aaron leaned against the pillar, his breathing heavy. He thought of Earth, of oceans that stretched beyond sight, of green forests filled with birds, of the warmth of sunlight on his face. He held those memories like a shield inside his mind. As long as he carried Earth within him, the feral could not win. The door slid open again. This time it was not a squad of soldiers. It was her. The same feral who had watched him with quiet eyes. She stepped into the chamber, her armor faintly shining under the dim light. Her helmet was removed now, revealing pale silver eyes that seemed to glow softly in the gloom. She walked closer, stopping a few paces away. For a moment, neither spoke. Aaron studied her face, searching for cruelty, but her gaze held something different. It was not pity, not triumph. It was curiosity. "You do not speak," she said at last, her voice calm, each word heavy with her alien accent. "They strike you, and still you do not give answers. Why?" Aaron's voice was low but steady. "Because my people depend on me. If I give you what you want, I betray them. I would rather fall here than live as a traitor." The feral soldier tilted her head, her silver eyes never leaving his. "Strange, among my kind. Life is held above honor. We do not fight for oaths. We fight to survive. If giving knowledge would save us, we would give it. Then that is the difference between us," Aaron said. "Humans survive not only by living, but by standing together. If I stand alone, I am weak. But if I stand for my people, I am strong, even in chains." The soldier frowned slightly, as if the thought unsettled her. She had seen many prisoners, but none who spoke like this. She had grown up hearing that humans were fragile, reckless, and unworthy of respect. Yet here stood one, broken in body but not in spirit. "What is your name?" she asked. "Aaron." She repeated it softly, as though testing the sound. "I am Lyra." For the first time, there was no hostility between them. The silence that followed was heavy, yet not uncomfortable. Aaron looked into her eyes and saw a flicker of something he did not expect, a question she could not put into words. "You watched me," Aaron said. "Not like the others." "Why?" Lyra hesitated. She was trained to guard prisoners, not to speak with them. Yet something about him stirred a restlessness inside her. "You are not like the stories. They said humans beg for life when taken. They said humans break easily. but you stand unbroken." Aaron gave a faint smile, though his lips were cracked and dry. "Stories are not always true. Maybe your people have not seen enough of us to know who we really are." Her gaze lingered on him. For a moment she thought of the world outside the fortress, the endless battles the Feral waged. They conquered system after system. Yet none of it filled the emptiness inside her. She had fought because it was expected, not because she believed. Now, faced with a chained human who refused to surrender, she wondered if belief was what her people had always lacked. Before she could ask more, heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor. Lyra straightened quickly, pulling her helmet back over her head. The door opened, and two guards entered. They glared at Aaron, then turned to Lyra. "The commander wants him moved," one of them said. Lyra nodded without expression. Together, the soldiers unlocked Aaron's chains and dragged him to his feet. His legs shook, but he forced himself to walk with steady steps. If they wanted him broken, they would be disappointed again. They led him through the fortress, past wide halls and sharp stone arches. Feral banners lined the walls, each one marked with victories from countless battles. Aaron ignored them, keeping his eyes forward. At last they brought him to another chamber, larger than before. The commander sat on a raised seat, his armor glowing faintly with golden lines of rank. His voice was deep, echoing through the hall. "Human," the commander said, "you are alone. Your ship is gone. Your fleet will not come for you. Speak, and you may live. Tell us where your people hide, and we will spare you." Aaron looked up at the towering figure. His throat was dry, but his voice was clear. "I will not give you anything. If you think fear will make me serve you, then you do not understand what it means to be human." The commander rose, his armor gleaming in the dim light. "Fool, you are nothing here, a weak creature clinging to pride. You will speak, or you will die." Aaron met his gaze without flinching. "Then I will die a human, not your tool." The hall fell silent. The commander's eyes narrowed, but before he could speak further, he raised a hand to the guards. They dragged Aaron back toward the holding chamber, muttering among themselves about his stubbornness. As they passed, Lyra walked beside them. Her steps were measured, but inside her mind was not still. She had seen arrogance before. She had seen desperation before. But this was neither. This was something her people did not have. When they locked Aaron back in chains, Lyra stayed behind after the others left. For a long time she said nothing, only watching him again. Aaron leaned against the pillar, breathing hard but unbroken. Finally she asked, almost in a whisper, "How long can you endure?" "As long as I must," Aaron answered, "until my people no longer need me, or until my last breath. Whichever comes first." Lyra turned her gaze away, hiding the storm in her thoughts. She was his guard, his jailer. Yet the more she listened to him, the less she felt like his enemy. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. Inside, a fragile thread of understanding began to weave between human and feral. Days passed inside the cold fortress. Aaron remained in chains, his body weary. Yet his spirit stood firm. The feral came to question him again and again. Each time, he answered nothing. The commander grew impatient, and the guards whispered that his execution was only a matter of time. But one figure kept returning, Lyra. The young soldier with silver eyes visited often. At first, she said little. She only watched him from the shadows, as if searching for answers in his face. But slowly, words began to pass between them. She came one evening when the storm outside shook the fortress walls. The air smelled of iron, and thunder rolled above the mountains. Aaron sat against the pillar, his wrists still bound by glowing cuffs. His head lifted when the door opened, and Lyra entered alone. She carried no weapon in hand, only her steady gaze. "You are still silent with the others," she said, "yet you speak with me. Why?" Aaron gave a faint smile. "Because you ask questions, not demands. The others only want to break me. You want to understand me. That is different." Her eyes narrowed slightly, though not in anger. "I do not understand you, human. You hold to loyalty even when it gives you nothing but pain. I cannot see the value." Aaron leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment before answering. Loyalty gives more than survival. It gives meaning. My people are far away, but when I refuse to betray them, I carry them with me. In that way, I am never alone. Lyra stood still, her thoughts unsettled. She had never heard such words. Among the feral, duty was obedience. Soldiers followed orders to live another day. Meaning was not asked for. Meaning was not given. Yet here was a prisoner who found strength not in his chains or his body, but in his heart. "What is your world like?" she asked at last. "This earth you speak of?" Aaron's eyes opened, and a softer look crossed his face. "It is beautiful. There are oceans so wide you cannot see the end, where the water shines like silver under the sun. Forests full of life, with trees older than any city. The air smells of rain and soil, and when the wind blows, it carries the voices of 1,000 living things. It is fragile, but it is alive in a way no fortress ever can be." Lyra listened in silence, her mind painting pictures of places she had never seen. She imagined the ocean, endless and free. She imagined trees that reached into the sky, not made of steel but of living wood. She imagined wind that carried not commands or war drums, but peace. "And your people," she said. "What are they like?" Aaron smiled faintly. "We are many things, strong, weak, kind, foolish. We argue, we stumble, but we always rise again. We dream of building, not only of conquering. We dream of living among the stars without chains." Lyra lowered her gaze, her thoughts heavy. She had been taught since childhood that the feral were the only race worthy of survival. Conquest was proof of strength. Yet listening to Aaron, she wondered if strength could also be found in building, in dreaming, in protecting what was fragile. "You fight endless wars," Aaron continued. "But does it make your people happy? Do you feel joy when you take another world?" She looked at him sharply. "Joy is not our aim. Survival is." "Then you are alive," Aaron said, "but not living." The words struck her like a blade, yet they did not wound her pride. They pierced deeper into a part of her that had long been quiet. She remembered battles where victory brought no satisfaction. She remembered nights staring at the sky, asking questions she dared not speak. Now, this prisoner had spoken them aloud. Lyra turned away, pacing slowly across the chamber. "Your words are dangerous. If the commander heard them, you would be silenced." Aaron shrugged slightly against the pillar. "Perhaps. But truth is always dangerous to those who fear it." For a long time, the only sound was the storm outside. Lyra stood with her back to him, her fists clenched at her sides. At last she asked in a quiet voice, "Why tell me these things? I am your jailer. I may be the one to guard you until your death." Aaron's reply was calm. "Because I see more in you than chains and orders. You listen, and maybe, deep inside, you already know that the way of your people is not the only way." Lyra froze, his words echoing inside her mind. She wanted to deny it, but she could not. She had felt it for years, though she had buried it beneath duty. Now this human, in his weakness, had spoken it with strength. At that moment, the door burst open, and another guard stepped in. He glared at Aaron, then looked to Lyra. "The commander grows restless. If this human will not speak soon, his end is near." Lyra masked her expression with discipline. "I will continue my watch." The guard gave a sharp nod and left. When the door closed, Lyra turned back to Aaron. His face was pale, his body weak, but his eyes still carried fire. "Your strength," she said, almost against her own will. "It does not come from your body. It comes from something else. I cannot name it." Aaron's lips curved in the faintest smile. "It comes from hope. Hope is the one chain we choose to wear, because it binds us not to weakness, but to tomorrow." Hope. The word echoed in her thoughts as she left the chamber. She carried it with her down the dark halls of the fortress, her steps slower than before. For the first time in her life, she wondered if there could be more than survival, more than conquest. Inside the chamber, Aaron leaned back against the pillar. His body trembled from exhaustion, but he felt a quiet victory, for he had planted a seed in the heart of his captor, and seeds, even in the hardest ground, could grow. The fortress grew colder as the seasons passed. The halls echoed with the march of soldiers, the hum of energy shields, and the distant roar of engines far below the mountain. Aaron remained in his chamber, bound by iron cuffs and under constant watch. Though his body grew weak from hunger and limited movement, his mind remained sharp. Every thought was a small rebellion against the walls that held him captive. But even the strongest mind could not escape the limits of a failing body. One morning, Aaron woke shivering. His muscles ached, his head throbbed, and the iron chains on his wrists felt heavier than ever. The cold air burned his lungs with each breath, and he knew that illness was taking hold. Lyra arrived that day at the usual hour. She had grown accustomed to speaking with him, to listening, to learning about a world she had never seen. But when she entered the chamber, she noticed his pale face immediately. His eyes, usually bright with quiet defiance, now flickered weakly like a dying star. "Aaron," she said softly, stepping closer, "you are ill. You should rest. I will rest when I am dead." Aaron whispered, his voice rough, "Do not waste your time on me." Lyra shook her head. "I am not wasting time. You are too stubborn to die quietly. You are still too strong to leave this world yet." Her words carried a weight he could not deny. He had felt the change in her from the first days of silence and suspicion. Now, she spoke with care. She came, not to judge, not to demand, but to protect him in the way she could. I do not understand why you care," Aaron said after a pause. Lyra's silver eyes met his. "Because I see what others do not. I see the fire that keeps you alive, and I cannot let it go out." Aaron closed his eyes, letting her words wash over him for the first time in weeks. He allowed himself to rest a little, leaning on the pillar for support. Lyra stepped closer, her hands moving to adjust the chains slightly so they did not cut into his wrists. Her movements were careful, precise, as if she feared hurting him more than the consequences from the commander. Hours passed, and Lyra remained in the chamber. She brought him small rations, water, and blankets she had requested from the kitchens. Aaron ate slowly, too weak to protest. He noticed the quiet way she moved, the subtle ways she watched the door, always alert but not aggressive. She was guarding him, yet not as a prisoner. She was guarding him like something fragile, precious, a treasure hidden in the fortress walls. When night fell, the storm outside returned, stronger than before. Lightning flashed over the mountains, illuminating the towers in brief, bright moments. Aaron's fever rose, and his shivering worsened. Lyra guided him to sit on a small cot she had arranged, covering him with blankets. "You are not alone," she said softly. "I am here. You will not be left to suffer." For a moment, Aaron felt something unfamiliar. It was not fear, not defiance, not the burning need to survive. It was gratitude, deep and quiet, for a Thyril who had chosen to stand beside him rather than against him. Days turned into nights, and nights into days. Lyra never left his side for long. She attended to his needs quietly, slipping away only when the commander or other soldiers were near, slowly, under her care. Aaron's strength began to return. His fever broke, and the aches in his body softened. His eyes regained a spark, brighter than before. During those quiet hours, they spoke. More than ever, Aaron told her about Earth, about oceans and mountains, about skies filled with stars that seemed to whisper to those who looked closely. He spoke of cities where humans built not only for survival, but for beauty. He spoke of families, friendships, laughter, and music that carried stories across generations. Lyra listened, enraptured. She had never thought stories could hold such power. In her life, stories were lessons, commands, and warnings, but Aaron's stories were alive. They carried hope, courage, and warmth. She began to imagine Earth as a place that could be real, a place where beings could care for one another without fear or conquest. One evening, she asked quietly, "Do you think your people will come for you?" Aaron nodded. "They will. They will search for those who are lost. Humans never leave behind what they love. That is our greatest strength." Lyra frowned slightly. "Even if the cost is great, especially then," Aaron replied, "love is not measured in safety. It is measured in the courage to face danger. For what matters, The words stayed with Lyra long after she left the chamber. For the first time, she questioned the rules of her world. The Theral believed survival above all else. Conquest and obedience were their laws. But Aaron's words showed her something she had never seen. That strength could exist in protecting others and risking one's life for those who mattered. As the days passed, Lyra began to act more openly in his defense. When other soldiers tried to question him roughly, she intervened, citing orders from the commander or creating distractions. When the commander questioned why Aaron's health seemed to improve despite confinement, she claimed careful management of rations and rest. She did not lie about the truth. She simply protected him from harm. Aaron noticed the changes in her. He saw how her silver eyes softened when she looked at him, how she moved with more care, how she lingered longer than necessary. He did not speak of it directly, understanding that such trust had to grow slowly. One afternoon, as sunlight barely reached the chamber through narrow windows, Aaron reached out weakly. Lyra noticed and brought her hand closer. "Do you need help?" she asked. I only need your presence," he said, his voice barely audible. She knelt beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. In that moment, a quiet understanding passed between them. Aaron was still her prisoner, yet she had become his protector. A bond, fragile but real, had formed. It was not built of chains or threats, but of respect, care, and an unspoken recognition of the strength in one another. Outside, the fortress remained a place of war and conquest, a world ruled by power and fear. Inside, in the quiet chamber, a human and a Theral discovered something neither had expected, that compassion could exist, even in a place built for cruelty. And that courage could take many forms. Lyra stood at the edge of the cot, watching Aaron rest. She knew the commander's patience would not last forever, and the other soldiers still feared what he represented. Yet she felt something shift inside her, a small spark of defiance, not for herself, but for him. She had begun to see that strength was not only in the battlefield. Sometimes it was in the quiet moments of care, the silent acts that defied expectation and danger alike. And in those quiet moments, Aaron began to feel something he had thought impossible in captivity. Not freedom, not yet, but hope. Hope that even here, within these walls of stone and steel, the seeds of something greater could grow. The fortress was restless. The commander had grown suspicious of Lyra's frequent visits to Aaron. Rumors traveled quickly through the stone halls, whispered among soldiers and technicians. Every step she took was now watched more carefully, every word scrutinized. Yet she continued her secret care of Aaron, moving with caution and quiet determination. One morning, a loud alarm echoed through the fortress. Red lights flashed across the walls, and the hum of engines grew louder. Lyra rushed to Aaron's chamber, her heart pounding. "The outer gates are under attack," she said, keeping her voice low. "An unknown fleet is approaching. The commander will be preparing for battle." Aaron tried to sit up, but weakness made him fall back. "I should fight," he said, his voice hoarse. "Humans do not hide while danger comes." Lyra shook her head. "You are still too weak. You must stay here." His eyes softened. "Then I trust you to protect me, Lyra." She felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. Protecting him was no longer just an act of care. It had become a choice that could define her loyalty, perhaps even cost her everything. The commander arrived at the chamber hours later, his face hard and cold. "Why is this human still alive?" he demanded. "You are responsible for his condition, soldier. Speak quickly." Lyra straightened, her expression disciplined. "He fell ill, Commander. I followed proper procedures and ensured he survived." The commander's eyes narrowed, and yet he grows stronger. "Do you wish to hide negligence? Or do you wish to claim defiance?" Lyra's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. "I follow orders, Commander. He remains alive because I did what you commanded." The commander studied her, searching for a trace of deception. Finally, he turned and left, muttering to his aides. Lyra exhaled quietly, knowing this was only a temporary reprieve. Soon, the commander would demand results. Soon, her choices would be tested again. That night, the sounds of battle filled the fortress, explosions shook the walls, and distant flashes of light illuminated the sky. Soldiers ran through the corridors, preparing defenses, while alarms screamed their urgency. Lyra remained in Aaron's chamber, guiding him to a safe corner, and securing the door. "Do not worry about the battle," she said softly. "You must conserve your strength. Everything else is beyond your control." Aaron looked at her, his silver hair damp from sweat. "I have never relied on another for survival before. It feels strange, but not unwelcome." Lyra smiled faintly. "Then trust me. I will not let you fall." Hours passed. The fortress shook as attacks intensified. The outer walls were breached, and alarms blared even louder. Soldiers shouted orders, and fire swept through the distant halls. Lyra remained by Aaron's side, her hand brushing against his to reassure him. Each sound of destruction made her heart pound, but she did not falter. At the peak of the chaos, a squad of Theral guards approached the chamber. Their faces were stern, their weapons drawn. Lyra stood between them and Aaron, her stance firm. "Step aside, soldier," one demanded. "The commander orders this human be moved to the central prison." Lyra shook her head. "He is too weak. Moving him now will kill him." The guard sneered. "Orders are orders. Do not defy us." Aaron's eyes flickered with concern. "Lyra, I cannot stay here," she whispered. "I will handle this." Her heart pounded. But she made her choice. She would not let them take Aaron, not while he was so vulnerable. Using her authority and knowledge of the fortress layout, she stalled the guards with technical explanations and procedural delays. She diverted them toward other areas, buying precious minutes. Meanwhile, Aaron watched her, a mix of surprise and admiration in his eyes. "You are risking much for me," he said softly. Lyra shook her head. "It is not about risk. It is about what is right. Even soldiers can choose the right path." The battle outside continued. Explosions rattled the walls, and distant screams reminded them both of the danger surrounding them. Yet inside the chamber, a fragile sense of security had formed. Aaron, though still weak, felt the power of her loyalty. Lyra, though threatened, felt the strength of her conviction. Hours later, the commander himself arrived at the chamber. His face was dark with anger and worry. "Lyra, why has this human not been moved?" She met his gaze without hesitation. "Commander, he is not strong enough. Moving him now would ensure his death. I follow your orders, but I also follow the duty to preserve life." The commander's eyes softened slightly, though his tone remained commanding. "You risk disobedience, and yet you act with wisdom. I will allow it, for now. But know this, soldier, any failure in this matter, and you answer not only for yourself, but for him as well." Lyra bowed her head. "Understood, Commander." Once he left, she returned to Aaron. "You are safe for now," she whispered. "But the test is not over. The fortress is full of eyes and ears. We must remain careful." Aaron smiled weakly. "I am learning about loyalty from you, Lyra. It is not something forced. It is something chosen. And it is stronger than any chain." Lyra's heart warmed at his words. She realized that her choice to protect him had changed her, reshaped the way she saw her duty and her world. Loyalty could exist alongside courage and compassion. Strength could come from defending life, not only from taking it. Days passed as the battle continued outside. Aaron regained some of his strength under Lyra's care. The outer attacks slowly retreated, though the fortress bore heavy scars. Yet the bond between the human and his Theral protector grew stronger. They had faced a test together, not just of survival, but of trust, courage, and conviction. In the quiet moments after the chaos, Aaron looked at Lyra and said, "You could have chosen obedience, yet you chose me. That choice, it means more than freedom." Lyra smiled softly. "Perhaps I have learned that the right choice is not always the safe one. And perhaps you have taught me that strength comes in many forms." Outside, the fortress still stood, scarred but unbroken. Inside, a human and a Theral discovered that loyalty, once tested, could create a bond far stronger than any chain. And in that bond, they both found hope, courage, and the first flickers of trust that could one day change the world. The fortress had grown quiet after the battle. Outside, the sky was gray and heavy with clouds, and the distant mountains still trembled from the force of explosions. Inside, the halls were scarred, walls cracked, and floors littered with debris. Soldiers repaired what they could, and the commander walked the corridors with a stricter vigilance. Lyra watched Aaron carefully. He had regained much of his strength, though his hands still bore marks from chains and bruises. His eyes, however, burned with a determination she had never seen before. He no longer spoke of despair or helplessness. He spoke of freedom, of Earth, and of a future beyond these walls. One evening, as the fortress settled into silence, Aaron leaned against the wall of his chamber. "Lyra," he said, "we cannot stay here forever. Soon, they will see me as a threat again. We must find a way out." Lyra nodded, her mind already turning through possibilities. "It will not be easy," she said. "The fortress is guarded from every side. The commander watches carefully, and the outer gates are fortified. We must plan in secret." Aaron looked at her, eyes steady. "Then we plan carefully. I trust you." They began by observing the routines of the guards. Lyra noted the shifts, the patrol patterns, and the weak points in the fortress. She marked hidden corridors and maintenance tunnels that were rarely used. Aaron listened, memorizing the layouts and imagining each step of their escape. Days turned into nights as they quietly prepared. Lyra slipped away to the control rooms and studied maps, while Aaron practiced moving silently and conserving energy. They learned the timing of the alarms, the schedules of the soldiers, and the rotations of the outer patrols. Each discovery gave them hope and sharpened their focus. One afternoon, as Aaron rested, Lyra brought him a small, secret device. "This will help," she said, her voice low. "It can disrupt the sensors for a short time, just enough for us to move through a corridor without being detected." Aaron studied it carefully. "It is small, but powerful. If it fails, it will not fail," Lyra said firmly. "We must trust each other. Trust is stronger than any machine or weapon." For the first time, Aaron smiled fully. "Then we trust each other." They decided to wait for the night of the news cycle, when the commander would be distracted by a scheduled inspection of the outer walls. Lyra and Aaron rehearsed their movements in the chamber, silently stepping through imagined corridors, counting seconds and signaling each other with subtle gestures. Every motion was precise, every step calculated. The night came. The fortress was dark, save for the dim lights along the hallways and the occasional glow of distant fires from repairs. Lyra helped Aaron move quietly from his chamber, keeping him hidden from the few patrols in the hall. The device hummed softly in her hand, ready to disable the sensors when needed. "Stay close," Lyra whispered. "Do exactly as I do." They moved through the shadows, past silent guards and empty rooms. The device worked perfectly, briefly, dimming the sensors and allowing them to slip unseen through the corridors. Each step brought them closer to freedom, yet every moment was filled with tension. A single mistake could mean capture, or worse. Finally, they reached the maintenance tunnels. Narrow and dark, Lyra led, Aaron following, careful not to make a sound. The tunnels twisted beneath the fortress, far from the eyes of the commander and soldiers. Here, the air was damp and the walls cold, but they pressed forward, driven by hope and determination. Aaron paused for a moment, breathing heavily. "I never thought I could move like this again," he said, voice quiet. "I thought I was too weak." "You are stronger than you know," Lyra replied. "You survived what no one else could. You have courage, and that is what matters now." Hours passed as they navigated the tunnels. Occasionally, distant noises from the fortress reminded them of the danger above. Yet they continued, step by careful step, until they reached a hidden exit at the base of the mountain. Lyra pushed aside rocks and debris, revealing a narrow path that led to the forest beyond. Aaron looked at the darkness outside. The forest was vast, filled with shadows and unknown dangers, but it was freedom. He turned to Lyra, gratitude in his eyes. "We have made it this far because of you," he said. Lyra smiled faintly. "We have made it because of each other. You are not just my prisoner. You are my companion in this. We succeed together." They moved into the forest cautiously, using the trees and shadows for cover. Lyra guided them along hidden paths, away from patrols and sensors. Every step forward was a step toward freedom, yet also a test of endurance. The night was cold, and Aaron's strength was still limited, but the thought of escape gave him energy. He had not felt in months. As dawn approached, they reached a small clearing. The first light of the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the trees and distant mountains. Aaron looked at the horizon, his heart swelling with hope. "We made it," he said softly. Lyra nodded. "This is only the beginning. We are safe, for now, but the world ahead is unknown. We must be ready for anything." Aaron smiled faintly. "I have faced captivity and fear. The unknown is nothing compared to what we have overcome together." They rested briefly, catching their breath and drinking from a small stream nearby. Lyra examined the device one last time, ensuring it could not be traced back to the fortress. Aaron flexed his hands, feeling the strength returning to his body. For the first time in months, they felt not only hope but confidence. The escape had tested their courage, trust, and determination. It had also deepened the bond between them. Lyra had chosen to risk everything to protect him. Aaron had learned to rely on another being completely. Together, they had discovered that strength was not only in survival, but in loyalty, care, and shared purpose. As they prepared to move deeper into the forest, Aaron turned to Lyra. "I do not know what lies ahead," he said, "but I know that with you, I'm not afraid." Lyra's silver eyes met his, steady and calm. "Then we walk forward together. Nothing will stop us if we remain united." With that, they vanished into the trees, leaving the fortress behind. The walls that had once held Aaron captive now seemed distant and powerless. Above them, the sun rose, casting light on a world filled with possibilities. The escape was only the first step, but it was the most important. It proved that courage, trust, and determination could overcome even the strongest chains. And as Aaron and Lyra moved forward, side by side, they knew that whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together. The forest stretched endlessly before Aaron and Lyra. Trees towered over them, their leaves whispering in the gentle wind. Sunlight filtered through the branches, creating patterns on the ground. The air smelled of earth and life, so different from the cold, metallic walls of the fortress. Every step they took carried them farther from their prison and closer to freedom. Aaron moved carefully, his body stronger than it had been in weeks. His steps were sure, and his eyes scanned the surroundings. He felt alive for the first time in months. "It feels strange to walk without chains," he said quietly. "Every step feels like a gift." Lyra smiled. "Freedom is a gift we earned. The fortress could hold our bodies, but it could not hold our will. That is why we succeeded." They followed the narrow paths of the forest, avoiding open clearings and the main roads that soldiers might patrol. Lyra led with confidence, using her knowledge of natural signs to guide them. Birds, footprints, and the flow of streams indicated safe directions and areas to avoid. As night approached, they found a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. Lyra examined it carefully, ensuring it was secure. "We will rest here tonight," she said. "It is safe, dry, and hidden from view." Aaron nodded, sitting on a smooth rock. "I never imagined a place could feel so safe after the fortress," he said. His voice was full of wonder. "And yet it feels strange to trust the world again." "You must learn to trust slowly," Lyra replied. "The world is danger, but it also has beauty. You must see both and choose carefully how to move." Inside the cave, they made a small fire from dry branches and leaves. The flames crackled, casting warm light on their faces. Aaron watched the fire, remembering the long months of cold confinement. "I have learned something important," he said softly. "Strength alone does not matter. The courage to trust another person is stronger than any chain." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "And loyalty is the same. Choosing to protect someone, even when it is difficult, gives meaning to our lives." The night was calm, and sleep came easily. When dawn broke, birds chirped in the trees, and sunlight streamed into the cave. Aaron stretched, feeling more alive than ever. Lyra handed him a small bundle of food she had prepared. "Eat carefully," she said. "We will need energy for the journey ahead." They moved through the forest, following the streams that led to larger rivers. Lyra taught Aaron how to find edible plants, recognize signs of dangerous animals, and use natural landmarks to navigate. Every lesson deepened their bond. Aaron was learning not only how to survive, but also how to live freely. A few days into their journey, they encountered a small village on the edge of the forest. The people stared at them at first, wary of strangers. Lyra stepped forward, explaining that they were travelers seeking refuge. The villagers welcomed them cautiously, offering food, water, and a place to rest. Aaron was amazed by the kindness. "I thought the world outside the fortress would be harsh," he said. "But people can be good. We just have to find the right ones." Lyra smiled. "There's good and bad everywhere. Our choice is to seek what helps us grow, not what harms. You have learned that courage is not just fighting, but also seeing clearly and choosing wisely." The village stay was short. Lyra knew that lingering too long could put them in danger, as the fortress may still send patrols. They moved on, traveling through forests, hills, and valleys. Each day, Aaron's strength returned, and he felt the freedom he had once only dreamed of. One evening, as they camped beside a calm river, Aaron spoke quietly. "Lyra, I have learned more than I imagined about loyalty, courage, and trust. I have never had someone protect me like you have, and I will never forget it." Lyra's silver eyes softened. "You taught me too," she said. "I learned that protecting another being can be more meaningful than following orders. We can change our world not by walls or weapons, but by choice, care, and courage." They watched the river flow, the sunlight reflecting like liquid gold. The journey ahead was long and uncertain, but for the first time, both felt hope. They were free from the fortress, free from fear, and free to shape their own destinies. Days turned into weeks. They encountered challenges like harsh weather, rough terrain, and wild animals. But they faced each obstacle together. Aaron moved with strength and care, while Lyra guided and protected. They learned to communicate without words, understanding each other's needs and fears instinctively. One afternoon, they reached a high cliff overlooking a vast plain. The view was breathtaking. Rivers, forests, and distant mountains stretched to the horizon. Aaron felt a deep sense of awe. "This is a new world," he said. "We can choose where to go, what to see, and who to trust." "Yes," Lyra replied. "And we must remember everything we learn. Freedom comes with responsibility. We must use it wisely." They stayed on the cliff for hours, planning their next steps. They agreed to move slowly, to continue avoiding danger, and to find a place where they could truly be safe. But in their hearts, they knew that nothing could stop them as long as they were together. As the sun set, painting the sky in colors of orange and pink, Aaron turned to Lyra. "I do not know what the future holds, but I know one thing. With you by my side, I am not afraid. We have survived the fortress, and we can survive anything else the world presents." Lyra reached out and placed her hand on his. "And we will face it together. Strength, courage, loyalty, and trust are ours. That is what makes us free." The first stars appeared in the sky, and the night was calm. For the first time, Aaron felt peace. For the first time, Lyra felt hope. Their journey to freedom had begun, and the world before them was vast, full of life, and full of possibilities. Together, they moved forward, step by step, leaving the shadows of the fortress far behind. The future was uncertain, but they faced it with courage and trust. Every step was a promise to survive, to protect, and to build a life shaped by choice and loyalty. The journey to freedom was only the beginning. And as Aaron and Lyra walked under the stars, side by side, they knew that nothing could break the bond forged in chains, strengthened in struggle, and proven in trust. The world awaited them, wide and open, and together they were ready to meet it.